Hello viewers, you're welcome to this tutorial. So in the previous tutorial we learned about the for loop, okay, and what the for loop actually does. So anytime you have a value like, okay, let me write the while loop first. So in this tutorial we're dealing with the while loop. All right, now the while loop and the for loop are all looping statements. Okay, there is a kind of cock right now making noise behind me. I don't know how you call their noise, but kind of making a noise behind me. All right, so that's just by the way. Okay, so with the while loop you have to bring a while. Okay, now let me see something. Let me kind of bring a little confusion and later resolve the confusion. All right, so current value. All right, so I have the for loop in names and print current value. All right, okay, so this is it. I have to write a program to say ask the cock to stop making noise. All right, it is done. I think it's almost 5:30, so you can hear cocks making noise all over. All right, so this is it. The while loop and the for loop are actually written kind of similar, apart from their syntaxes, which is different. Okay, but each one of them has a different way of working. All right, so the while loop is different from the for loop in terms of functionality, but they are all looping statements. Looping statement means if you want to go through something over and over again, you can use the while loops. All right, unlike the if statement where you just classify them once. Okay, so we want to go through this list. What the for loop actually does is the variable we have here as the for loop is a receiver of the individual values this names pass over to it. So there is no need declaring before time this variable. Okay, this variable is just for this. All right, so this variable needs not to be declared outside. But with the while loop, this variable is a variable we set ourselves before this value. Okay, so meaning, let me clean all this, we're done with you. Alright, so what has to happen is within the while loop is different from the for loop. The while loop is like an advance of the if statement, okay, but the for loop is specifically made if you want to receive values from the names into the current value. That's the for loop. But with the while loop, what it does is it actually compares your value you have here within the values within the names. All right, so what they do is, now the for loop just is a receiver, but the while loop works like the comparison. All right, so the while loop will say that while the value you have here is inside this list, then print this. But the for loop will say that for this value, which is any value this one passes to me, then print this. So this will be continually printing values or sending values to the current value. So that is the while loop, the for loop, sorry, but the while loop works so differently. Okay, so let's jump to how the while loop works. Meaning with the while loop we need to declare a variable, okay, called current value. All right, current value. So there has to be a predefined current value. So if we already have a value which we want to compare to the values within the list, then we use a while loop. Or if we want to execute a groups of conditions, if a value we have is inside a list or an iterable, like a range, a tuple, or a dictionary, then we use a while loop. But if we want to pass the values of an iterable, maybe a range, a list, a dictionary, a tuple, inside the variable, so we kind of do something else with them, then we use a for loop. All right, that is so great a definition. So if we run this code right now, unlike the if statement, if we should run this code and say current value is equal to this, so while current value is inside names, print this, it will be printing and printing and printing, unlike the if statement which will only print once. But this is a while loop, so it will print and print and print so far as this condition is true. So while prints is in names, be printing this, and indeed it's inside the name, so it will be printing and printing and printing and printing. So let's see. So we have printing and printing and printing and printing. Now you can use the shortcut key Control and C to stop, but if it doesn't work, use Control and F2. Okay, it stops the code. So let me run it again. Just click on this button. So in PyCharm, it's either you use this button to stop it, or you use Control and F2, which stops running the code. Okay, but if you're using is if your code is running through command prompt, okay, like Visual Studio is running through command prompt or any other one, you can use Control C. If you're using Python's default idle, you can use Control C, but PyCharm has actually restricted this to Control and F2. So that is how it basically works to end the code, or you can click that stop button we saw right there. All right, so this is the while loop. It will run through the condition, the fact that this thing is true. Okay, so with the for loop, you don't need to give another another code which will serve as a stop to the loop. Okay, if everything ends, the for loop ends. But with the while loop, it will be doing it and doing it and doing it unless you try to restrict it yourself, that stop at this point. So if you change the value of the current value, all right, now what is about to happen is that this is the value within the comparison. So if this value is inside the names, then this whole statement becomes true. If the statement becomes true, it uses the while loop to continually print it because this statement is true. So if we change the value within the comparison statement, then this statement will become false. So the while loop will not loop anymore. So if the current value is what Gladys, all right, and I run, so it will only execute prints once. The reason being that after after executing prints for the first time, it meets another condition here which says current value is equal to Gladys. So it has changed the comparison value here from Prince to Gladys. So it comes back to the while loop and says while Gladys is inside names, print this. And Gladys is nowhere within the names, so it doesn't print it anymore. So with the for loops, you don't need to give a restriction. Okay, stop it because of this, because it stops by itself if it goes through all the conditions. But with your while loop, you kind of have to give a restriction that stop do this and give another condition or change the value in the comparison. Okay, that's what I needed to say. Change the value in the comparison, which will cause your code to kind of stop whiling and whiling and whiling and whiling several times. So that is how it basically works. The for loop different from the while loop. So if you have groups of values, you want to pass values over them and do something with them, use the for loop. If you have your own value or your own variable, you want to compare it and kind of repeatedly do an action, do the while loop. Okay, if you want to do the action only once, then use the if statement. But if you want to do the action continually, then use the while loop. All right, so this is the basic concept of what the while loop actually does. Just watch us for the next tutorial, and I'll be teaching how to do with the while loops with integers, because there's a while loop with strings. Okay, all these values are strings within a list. So I'm going to teach you how to do with the while loop with integers, and you're going to appreciate that one as well. So thanks for viewing. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell and give a like if the video was good for you. All right, and thanks for